Anti-gunners love to say that there is no such thing as a good guy with a gun, or that those good guys never do anything heroic to save the day. But I'm sure that the mother of a 1-year-old baby would say otherwise when an armed citizen rescued her child just last week. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's story is about how an armed Good Samaritan ended a massive manhunt for a missing child in Lafayette, Tennessee, and how several news outlets chose not to include that aspect in their story, simply calling him a homeowner that tipped off authorities, or didn't mention him at all, rather than a guy who held a kidnapper at gunpoint. Because narratives, I guess. On Friday night, police showed up at Steve James's home and asked him if they could look on his property. A man named Gerald Blair had been involved in a hit-and-run accident and fled the scene earlier that day, taking his girlfriend's 1-year-old daughter with him. He had disappeared into the woods, no one could find the kid, and he was wanted on child abuse and child neglect charges. The cops turned up empty-handed. Even the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation got involved and couldn't find Blair or the infant after several hours of searching. But the next morning, a neighbor saw the man and baby on a camera near a creek on James's property. So James got his gun, went down to the creek, and found himself face to face with Blair. James reports that he held Blair at gunpoint to take control of the situation and demanded that Blair hand over the kid. The two argued back and forth, but Blair did eventually surrender and give up the child. If James didn't have his gun, things could have and probably would have gone very differently. He probably wouldn't have gotten the guy to surrender or give up the baby. But again, multiple outlets left that whole confrontation out, saying simply that James saw the pair and called the cops. But before I tell you the injustice that these outlets did to Steve James, I'd like to tell you all about the attorneys on retainer, the people that you want in your corner if you ever find yourself in a self-defense incident. These folks are actual attorneys whose entire job it is to give you legal advice and represent you if you use your gun in self-defense. They are not an insurance company, so their only requirements are that the incident happened after you signed up and that you reasonably acted within good faith. They're not there to protect their own butts with fine print or liability clauses, and you are not sent through an insurance adjuster before a lawyer even looks at your case, which is what typically happens with insurance companies. They cover everything from felonies to misdemeanors and even bail bonds. So switch over from your existing self-defense coverage, head on over to my link down in the description and use code LibertyDoll to get $50 off your individual sign-up. A write-up for Channel 5 Nashville called Good Samaritan Saves Missing Child Involved in Lafayette Manhunt mentions James and his heroic deeds way down in paragraph 6. But WZTV Nashville simply wrote that the baby, Mabry Like, had been found safe. They did not mention James at all. WSMV4 also didn't mention James's heroism, not even calling him by name, simply referring to him as a homeowner that, quote, tipped off police in the first sentence of the piece. They wrote Blair was taken into custody without incident. I'd call a Good Samaritan saving the day being a pretty big incident, but standards for journalism are very different these days. Sure, maybe Blair didn't fight the cops, but that doesn't make James's actions any less newsworthy or heroic. I mean, I think that the baby's mom would definitely argue that James is a hero. The fact is, millions of defensive gun uses happen every single year, and by several studies, the bulk of them never even involve pulling the trigger. You would think that anti-gunners would appreciate this statistic because it means less crime is happening and fewer guns are being fired, because many of these gun violence websites count defensive uses in their definitions of so-called gun violence. But that is not how it works, and it seems that it's the same prejudice against gun owners that has prevented this from being a national story. A Good Samaritan saving an abducted baby would be a big deal in any other context, but for some reason in this story, he's just a homeowner with a tip, not a man who took the situation into his own hands to protect a child. But at the end of the day, little Mabry got home safe and sound, and that is ultimately what matters. So, Mr. James, in lieu of all of the news outlets that didn't say it, thank you for your heroism. Alright folks, that is it for this video. A little short and sweet thing for today. You guys know the drill. For all of the algorithm things, please like, share, and subscribe. If you are new here, drop those comments down below to push this video up. Check your subscriptions, of course, because I get knocked off of them all the time. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and happy shooting.